Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Make sure it's sharing the right screen here. Looks good. Okay, so welcome everybody to this webinar Wednesday. My name is, of course, Thad Graham. I'm the education specialist for the Victim Services Program for Family Services Incorporated. Today we're going to be talking about sexual assault on college campuses. And with me today, I also have a very special guest, Alicia Williams. Alicia, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Awesome. Alicia, give us a little introduction about yourself real quick. Tell the audience who you are.
Okay, so I am Alicia Williams, as Dad stated. I am a senior currently down at Penn State Altoona in the Human Development and Family Studies program. And I'm just here today to talk about what's been going on down on campus for sexual assault awareness and what our student organization called KON, which is KON, is going to be bringing next week to bring awareness to the campus and the community.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your student organization real quick? What is KON?
So KON is Kappa Omicron Nu, and it is the honor society for the HDFS degree, as well as there is a subsection to KON, which is not the honor society part, but is for any students to have access to our organization, which is called the HDFS student group.
Awesome, awesome. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Like Alicia said, she'll be piping in every so often, and she's going to also tell us a little bit more about what Penn State is doing to prevent sexual assault and what she is doing with her organization. So as always, a trigger warning here, we are going to be talking about sexual assault. So your mental health is the most important thing. If this is too much or if this triggers you in any way, we please ask that you take care of yourself first. So, of course, objectives for today. We are going to define the problem of sexual assault on college campuses. We are also going to discuss the culture of rape that occurs on college campuses. We're going to have a quick discussion on consent. We're also going to have a discussion on sexual assault and the LGBTQ+ community, as well as other communities as well. We're also going to have an introduction of sex ed boot camp at Penn State Altoona, and also talk about Penn State's week of action, and that's where Alicia is going to come back into play for us as well. So if you, of course, have any questions on any of the information as we go, please feel free to put it in the Q&A section, and I will be happy to answer any and all questions. As always, there are handouts for you as well on any of the information, including an awesome schedule that Alicia made up for their week of action. Lastly, of course, we also have lost my train of thought, a little questionnaire for you at the end of the webinar for you to take and just to let me know how we're doing and where you want to see these webinars go next. So of course, let's go ahead and get started then into the problem. So we're going to look at the facts when it comes to sexual assault on college campuses. So when we look at national studies and we look at different national studies, they do range a little bit, but anywhere between 19 and 20% is what is the average in these studies. So approximately 19% of women will be sexually assaulted during their time at college. So we're essentially saying that 1 in 5 women are going to be sexually assaulted in some way, shape, or form while they are attending school. Once again, 5 to 6% of men will also experience sexual assault during college. Now, one of the other issues with these numbers are the low reports. People actually not reporting their sexual assault, specifically when we look at the male population. So most likely these numbers are skewed low. But so let's just take an example real quick. We have a small satellite campus with approximately 4,000 students, a small college with a population split very similar to, a normal population split, about 50-50. So what we are saying is that each year there could be, I'm not saying there are, I'm saying there could be, looking at these statistics, up to 380 female survivors of sexual assault and up to 120 male survivors of sexual assault on college campuses. That's a surprising number to me. That's a lot of people who could be statistically a victim of sexual assault. Now, looking at these numbers a little bit further, we know that more than 50% of college sexual assaults occur in either August, September, October, or November. So half of assaults occur at the beginning of the school year. Oftentimes, this is called a red zone or a red time on college campuses. This is when a majority of sexual assaults occur because we have new incoming students. Students are at an increased risk during the first few months of their first and second semesters in college. 84% of female survivors report being sexually assaulted during their first 4 semesters on campus. Once again, when they are new to the campus. 90% of campus sexual assaults are committed by perpetrators that the survivor knows. Now, this is, the same with most sexual assault survivors. They know their perpetrator, whether we're looking at children or we're looking at, college-age students or adults. They know their perpetrator. They often have a relationship with them in one way, shape, or form. Only 20% of female victims aged 18 to 24 report to law enforcement. So only a fifth of those victims are actually reporting to law enforcement, whether that's campus law enforcement, whether that's, their local police, that they were sexually assaulted. Only 12% of student survivors report the assault to police specifically. So we're looking at just 12% of students reporting sexual assault to police, male or female. Only 7% of survivors of incapacitated sexual assault report to the police. Less than 1 in 10 students who are sexually assaulted while they're incapacitated. So we're talking about they go to a party, they have too much to drink, they go to a party and someone slipped drugs into their drink. Less than 1 in 10 of those survivors are reporting that they were sexually assaulted to the authorities. Now, we often hear about, false reports and false reports of rape, and people are using it as just a way to change their mind. They change their mind afterwards as a way to get back at the perpetrator. The truth is, false rape reports are very, very low. Once again, the statistic ranges between 2 and 10%. That's it. Most show around 2% of reports are false reports. 98% of the time, the victim is telling the truth. Now, one of the crazy things that always, I think of when I hear this number is that when someone says that they were robbed, when someone says that they were beaten up, they had a gun pulled on them, when someone says that, this person, assaulted me and they stole my stuff, we believe that victim almost 100% of the time. But when we're talking to victims of sexual assault, we are unsure and we worry if it's a false report when we know that statistically it's very, very unlikely. This number also does include recants, which is when a survivor chooses for many, many, many reasons to recant and discontinue their report. So this is when a survivor says, I don't want to go through with this anymore. I don't want to deal with this anymore. I want to move on, and they recant. It's not that it's a false report, it's that they don't want to deal with the hassle of going through the criminal justice system and the fact that they may not actually see justice for what happened to them. And we'll talk about that here in a few minutes. When you look at why is the survivor not reporting, or why is the survivor recanting their testimony, survivors often cite a number of reasons. Not wanting others to know, a lack of proof, a fear of retaliation, being unsure of whether what happened constitutes assault. Oftentimes we'll talk to victims and they're not quite sure. They feel that because of the way society is today, that maybe it was their fault that they were assaulted, that maybe they did something that led to their assault. We'll also talk to victims that they didn't know how to report. They didn't know where to go and who to report that information to. And last, they have a fear of being treated poorly by the criminal justice system. And I know you're sitting there thinking, how would a sexual assault victim be treated poorly by the criminal justice system? And the truth is, it's more prevalent than we would like to think. For every 100 rapes committed, approximately 2 rapists will ever serve a day in prison. So only 2% of those rapists will spend a day in prison for what they did. Approximately 50% of all assaults that result in a police investigation are prosecuted. So even if you go to the police and the police do proceed with an investigation, only half of those cases ever are prosecuted. A plurality of law enforcement officers believe a lot of rape myths, which refer to stereotypical and empirically incorrect beliefs that an individual holds concerning rape, rapists, and the victims of rape. What do we mean by this? Well, we mean that only bad girls get raped, that the woman was asking for it, that the woman was wearing suggestive clothing, that she shouldn't have been at that party, or that she shouldn't have been drinking like that. We also hear the myth that women will cry rape when they've been jilted or have something to cover up. They don't want it known that they had sex. They didn't have sex, they were assaulted. And where do they get this belief? They get it because it happens a lot. As you can see, there are countless cases across the United States where rapists, including serial rapists, are charged with probation, even after the victim reported their assault. They may have testified in court, telling everyone what happened to them, what this person put them through. You can have a judge say that incarceration was inappropriate for a man who raped 4 children. Imagine if you were a victim and you've gone through all of that just for the person who assaulted you to get probation, to get a slap on the wrist. Now, when it comes to the LGBTQ+ community, I was able to find one study conducted by the Association of American Universities on sexual assault within the LGBTQ+ community, but statistics for specifically sexual assault on campuses is notoriously hard to find. I had a hard time finding it. The one study I did find found that 23% of undergraduates who identify as transgender, genderqueer, or non-binary have reported having been victims of non-consensual contact by physical force or lack of consent. So 23% of transgender, genderqueer, or non-binary students have been sexually assaulted during their time in college. like I said, that being said, there are significant gaps in this information. So the numbers I have for the LGBTQ plus community, for the people of color and disabled people that you're going to see next, are just generalized stats, because this gives you an idea for the prevalence of sexual assault of these individuals. I also want to thank Brittny Servello, because she is the one that made these next few slides. They are wonderfully made slides, and I just wanted to give a shout out to her as well. So when we look at intimate partner sexual violence when it comes to the LGBTQ plus community, 44% of lesbians, 61% of bisexual women have experienced rape, physical violence, and stalking by an intimate partner. Now, when we look at that number comparative to a heterosexual female, so female dating a male, it is only 35%. The LGBTQ plus community is at a higher risk for sexual violence comparative to the heterosexual females. 26% of gay men, 37% of bisexual men have experienced rape, physical violence, and stalking by an intimate partner. Once again, when we look at that number comparative to heterosexual males, it would be 29%. When we look at other members of the LGBTQ plus community, when we look at transgender and non-binary survivors, the numbers increase once again. Trans or non-binary students in grades K through 12 reported significant rates of harassment, physical assault, and sexual violence. Of those who responded, the respondents who were harassed or physically or sexually assaulted were often assaulted due to their gender expression, and over half attempted suicide. Continuing, looking at sexual violence in the transgender and non-binary communities. Almost half of all transgender people have been sexually assaulted at some point in their lives. Nearly 50% of transgender individuals have suffered sexual assault at some point in their life. 50%. That's 1 in 2 individuals. That's an insane number. Those rates are even higher for trans people of color and for those who have done sex work, have been homeless, or who have had or have a disability. So what are the barriers when it comes to survivors in the LGBTQ plus community? Often they're not taken seriously, or their experiences are minimized. Not having their experiences called sexual assault or rape. Having to explain their experience in more detail than one would ask a heterosexual survivor or a survivor of male to female assault. Often they have to educate the individuals they reach out to. They often have their experiences sensationalized. They can easily, unfortunately, be mistaken as the perpetrator, where they are blamed for the assault. They're often not understood. They could be treated in homophobic manners by police, hospital staff, a rape crisis center, counselors, and other individuals that they would ask for help. And lastly, the fear of being outed, which is having their sexual orientation revealed without their consent. This is especially a major factor when we look at those students and those young individuals. When we look at people of color, approximately 34% of multiracial women, 27% of Alaskan Native and American Indian women, 22% of Black women, 14.6% of Hispanic women are all survivors of sexual violence. There have been many national studies to look at Asian American and Pacific Islander communities, but those numbers have been inconclusive because they've had such small sample sizes. They've actually skewed very, very high, which is sad. When it comes to people with disabilities, individuals who identify as disabled are 3 times more likely to experience sexual violence than a person who does not identify as disabled. Individuals who have multiple disabilities experience even higher rates of violence. Now, I do want to take a pause here and throw in a quick pitch that we actually offer a training on individuals who work with disabilities, for people who work with individuals with disabilities, on how to identify sexual assault victims in that population, how to properly work with them, and how to properly investigate those reports of sexual assault. So if your organization works with intellectually disabled peoples, please give me an email or a phone call. We would love to provide that training for your organization. Next thing we're going to look at here is a culture of rape on college campuses. So what exactly is rape culture? And this is something we hear sensationalized in the media either way. But the truth is that rape culture exists when sexual violence becomes normalized and excused in society. Traits of rape culture include objectifying a woman's body, encouraging sexual aggression, condoning physical or emotional abuse, and victim blaming. Sexual assaults on college campuses are increasing each year. Studies have also shown that fraternity men are 3 times more likely than those who are not involved in Greek life to commit an act of sexual assault. There are many, many factors that go into this, but it can be due in part to the social status that Greek life represents, and that it provides an easier way and facility to dominate and control those who are new to campus life. So these next few slides, I have actual photos from frats, fraternities, and college campuses that show, what they are doing and what they are advertising for new students. Remember, those first few months are when the victims are most vulnerable. And that is when you will see these signs. We as individuals need to stop associating sexual violence with drunken mistakes. It is more normal for someone in college to experiment with drugs and alcohol, but that is no excuse for sexual violence to occur. Sexual violence deals with power, control, and the need to feel dominance over another individual. When we say that it was a drunken mistake, that you weren't sexually assaulted, we are blaming the victim. And victim blaming normalizes rape culture and contributes to victims not wanting to report these incidents. Something we should all ask ourselves is, why are we so quick to believe a victim of another crime, like I said before, but we are always skeptical of sexual assault victims? Many students on college campuses are becoming increasingly desensitized to rape culture because it is constantly around them. College administrations are also notorious for handling rape cases very poorly. And oftentimes they leave the victim to find ways to protect themselves on their own. Abusers and rapists are often not held responsible and suffer little to no consequences for their actions. Thus, most victims feel a sense of hopelessness and despair, since ultimately they are the ones who have to figure out whether they want to continue attending the campus and face potential triggering reminders of the incident, including the perpetrator, or if they should transfer to another university. Think of that. We are punishing the victim in a lot of these cases instead of punishing the perpetrator. Alicia, anything you would like to add? Nothing, specifically about Penn State, but you as a college student, what have you seen when it comes to, rape culture on college campuses? Anything you would like to add?
Absolutely. So I think one of the biggest things as well as you see here in these images is just verbalization on, I guess you could say banners is what you want to call them, but also just verbalizing from peer to peer. You can hear pretty gut-wrenching conversations about individuals having sex with others and it's taken as a joke, or you hear discussions of, well, they told me no, but I just kept going and pretended I didn't hear anything. And people don't want to believe that these conversations are actually going on between, what you would consider, we are supposed to be considered adults now. And unfortunately, because nobody is comfortable stepping in and halting those conversations or halting text messages that are, disruptive to the community as Penn State or any college campus, it can be very hard to stop rape culture just because of that fact that the conversation is continuing and no one feels comfortable stopping it or putting an end to that conversation.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. Thank you. Now, one of the things you said about was verbalizing and what you hear on college campuses. The next slide here, I do have something that you may have seen before. It did make national, headlines, and it is the verbalization of, rape culture on college campuses. Now, give me a second while I try to share this video. Okay, so there we have the verbalization, the emails of that culture on campus. Now, the campus was forced, to step in and to do something about it, I guess. They were going to suspend the fraternity for 5 years. They later opted out of their punishment, and instead, if you read the article further, they sent a campus-wide email about the review and advised students not to attend parties at that fraternity as it wasn't safe. So there was no punishment at all, and the culture continues. Last thing we're going to look at here is a discussion on consent, because it's always important to ask for consent, no matter what you're talking about, whether it's a volunteer for work or, sex. Consent is always important. So what is consent? Consent is willful. It's positive. Consent is a good thing. The person wants to do it. It's voluntary. They're not being forced to do it. They are 100% allowed to say no if they want. Knowledge of the act involved. Informed consent, whether we're talking about, medical procedure, we're talking about sex, we're talking about volunteering for, anything, you have to have knowledge of the acts involved. Consent is specific to each act. You can't, consent to, let's make out and then not consent to sex if it becomes that. You can't, consent to, taking your coworker on a quick trip to the store and them adding 12 more stops because you're already doing this one. It is specific to each act. It cannot be forced. You can't deceive someone into consenting. And consent can be withdrawn at any time. It's very important. When we look at consent, you can say no at any time. There's no resistance required. There's no prompt complaint required. There is no specific word to give consent. Consent can be nonverbal. You know, if I ask someone to give me a hug and they look all shy and bashful and, you know, closed off, they don't want a hug. They didn't have to say it. I can see it. You also don't have to hear the word no. Silence is not consent. One last quick video here because I love this video. And I would show it to everybody if I could when it comes to consent. It explains it better than any video I know.
Hi everyone, if you could please not log off, I'd greatly appreciate it. This is Brittny Servello, the Helpline advocate. Thad is having technical difficulties with his audio, but he will be back on in a moment. While we're doing that, Alicia, do you want to talk about your week of action that you have going on at Penn State next week?
Yes, I can do that. So it'll probably, the images of it will come up here in a little bit, but right now, my student organization is trying to bring awareness to the fact that there is sexual assault going on, not only at our campus, but all campuses nationwide. And it's a very serious matter that cannot just be addressed through conversation or through internet. It needs to be something done through action. So the best way to do that is to bring awareness programs and events down to campus. That way the community can get involved, and as well as the student population down on Penn State and faculty can get involved as well. So our way of bringing awareness to sexual assault on campuses was to have a week-long event in partnership with Family Services that brought different types of events that brought awareness, education, and opportunities for students to come down and just ask any questions that they may have, or be provided with a platform where they can disclose or ask questions from a advocate from Family Services, who are individuals who are properly trained to handle those kind of situations or talk with students. So the first day we are going to be holding an event called Cover the Cruiser, which is where the Penn State Police is going to graciously provide a police cruiser and put it in the academic quad in front of the SLEP Center. And we are going to have students or faculty or anybody just coming down to Penn State, it's open to the public, come down and write on some sticky notes that they support all victims and survivors, or if they are inclined to, they are more than welcome to write their own story of sexual assault and feel empowered to then put that sticky note onto the police cruiser. And we're hoping to get the entire cruiser covered and be able to show that our community is coming together as a whole to support victims and survivors.
And for that day one, Alicia, you said that it's not only just for students, that anyone in the community can come down on Monday and do the Cover the Cruiser and everything.
Yep, they're welcome to come down and participate. They can come down, and also if they need to speak with somebody, like I said, someone from Family Services will be there and they will be able to come down and talk with them if they need to. Oh, there it is. So here's all the events pulled up there. So then Tuesday night from 7 to 9 p.m., we are going to be holding a sexual assault professionals panel. So we're going to have individuals who have either been triage individuals who have gone, I mean, you could say, you know, to the front line of sexual assault and dealt with victims and survivors and their families, or we also have individuals from behavioral health who have dealt with the aftermath of sexual assault and dealt with trauma, PTSD, things of those nature. And then we also have an individual from the Child Advocacy Center who I believe is going to be our moderator, so she's there as well. And we also have a SANE nurse, which is a sexual assault nurse examiner who deals with the medical side of sexual assault and providing rape kits and examinations upon seeing the victim. And that is open to students, Penn State students. And as I've been telling the students down on campus, If they would like to attend but do not feel safe in doing so on their own, or they just don't feel comfortable, they are welcome to bring a support person. I ask that if they are going to bring a support person, they bring at max 2 people if they are not Penn State students. And they're welcome to bring them. That way they feel comfortable going and have someone there with them in case these events are a little too much for them, because these are very sensitive events and can be triggering for some people. And then on Wednesday, we're going to be doing in the morning again, the Clothesline Project, which is a project that has different colored t-shirts that have meanings of different types of sexual assault or abuse or violence against individuals based on their sexuality, partnership, and just in general, just sexual assault going on against individuals. And we invite both students, faculty, and the public to come down, and you can either write words of affirmation on the t-shirts, write a story from a family member or partner or a friend. We just ask that if it is not your story, that you do not write down individuals' names, as well as also get consent to do so. Or you are welcome to come down and write your own story and feel empowered to put that on there so people can see the impact that sexual assault has on individuals and domestic violence has on individuals. And we are going to hang them up in the academic quad area so that individuals walking by can see the impact that sexual assault has had on college students or the community at large. And then the last event is the Sex Ed Boot Camp. This is a program, or excuse me, an event that is specific to students. And just like Tuesday night, if students feel the need to bring someone with them, we just ask that you limit it to 2 people, and they don't have to be a Penn State student, and they are welcome to attend to be a student support person. We just ask also that they're, because of the nature of this event, that they are 18 or older. And this event is, I mean, everything involved with bringing awareness to sexual assault, but also providing education on sex itself. And I believe this is one of the most important events of the week when it comes to education wise, because in order to combat the issues surrounding rape culture and sexual assault going on campus, we need to start with a plan A, which is providing proper and medically accurate sex education to young individuals, and unfortunately sometimes adults as well, older adults I should say. And that's what this program provides. These 2 women, Dr. Joni Frater, who is on the left, and Esther Lastique, who's on the right, they provide an amazing presentation on body autonomy, sexuality, sex itself and how to be safe, consent, and how to properly use contraceptives. And they also are a very welcoming group of very welcoming presenters, and they welcome any question that students may have, and if they need to be spoken with afterwards, they're welcome to. And after the program, there is going to be free contraceptives handed out because it is important to remain safe. And I forgot to mention it also, on Tuesday night, there is going to be free food and drinks during the panel as well. So we're hoping for a lot of people to come out to bring awareness, but also to maybe learn some new things that they may have not learned before, and feel more comfortable talking about sex with their partner or even with themselves, because it's important to be cognizant of sexuality and self, even on your own and with your partner, and be able to have those appropriate conversations with your partner about sex and what you're comfortable with and what you're not comfortable with, and making sure that any moment in time during sexual activity on your own or with your partner, that everyone is consenting and everyone feels safe.
Alicia, that's awesome. You've definitely gone above and beyond and everything. For the Clothesline Project and stuff like that, you had stated it's a very powerful installation and everything, and that's rain or shine, right? If it's outside, the weather's looking pretty good, but if anything would happen, is that going to be in a different area, or?
So I know that Monday it looks like it's going to rain for Cover the Cruiser, and Wednesday right now, like you said, it looks like it's going good. So if there would ever be on Monday or Wednesday, because those events are held outside, if there is rain, we are going to try and move those events into the SLEP Center. I don't know how well that will work with Monday, just because it's a giant police cruiser, but our second option, we're just going to pop up a little pop-up, and we will still be there, because rain or shine, sexual assault is still occurring. So rain or shine, we will be there to promote bringing awareness to sexual assault.
That's awesome. I know here at Family Services, we appreciate having another advocate in the community. And I think Thad's audio is working, so I'm going to go ahead and let him step in.
Can you hear me?
We can, Thad.
Oh, hey, thank you. I completely got kicked out. Thank you, ladies. I am so sorry about that. I have no idea what happened, but I got kicked out and my audio completely crashed. So to wrap everything up, thank you again, ladies. I'm once again sorry for the technical difficulties. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So if you know anybody, or if you are a survivor, or if you help survivors of sexual assault, please remember that our victim services helpline is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Call or text 814-944-3585. Also, we are very excited. Joni and Esther are going to be sticking around Friday, and they are going to be providing an amazing talk on communication, consent, autonomy, and sex for our April Lunch and Learn. There is still time to register. Registration is filling quickly, so please, if you are interested in attending this absolutely free event and learn more from Joni and Esther, lunch will be provided, certificates of attendance will be available as well. Please reach out to us. You can call us if need be at our helpline, 814-944-3585. Brittny can get your information or get you the proper place. Also, Women Aware is back. This is our weekly group to help women and to provide support for women who are victims of intimate partner and domestic violence. Whether you are currently a victim or you once were a victim, they meet 2 hours every week. For more information, once again, call our helpline. It is an amazing thing back in our community, and it just seems to continue to grow each and every week. Also, if you're interested in volunteering, we are starting our volunteer training once again. So if you want to help victim services, help victims of domestic violence or sexual assault in our community, we are going to have more dates in the future. So please call our helpline 814-944-3585 if you are interested in volunteering. As always, the FSI Justice Project is here to help victims of domestic violence with their civil problems, whether it's divorce, custody, child support. For more information on the FSI Justice Project, call the helpline. As always, all of our programming is recorded and uploaded onto our GoToStage and YouTube for viewing at any time at your convenience. You can find us on social media as well. And that will go ahead and end our webinar. Once again, I would like to apologize for the technical difficulties. That being said, I hope you all have a wonderful Wednesday, and I will see you all on the next webinar Wednesday.